everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Hope you guys have had an awesome week so far. For today's video, we're talking about 5 strategies that you can use to increase your cash flow on your rental properties. But before we get started, I want you guys to go down and hit that subscribe button so I know you guys want to keep seeing more videos. Let's get started. So at the end of the day, cash flow is king when you own rental properties. If you're not properly cash flowing, then you're having to sink money into the property every single time. But you may have a property that's got very skinny cash flow and you're wanting to find ways that you can maybe increase that cash flow. Or you think it's a great location that you're looking at, it's really got a lot of future potential, but again, that cash flow might not quite be there. So we're going to discuss 5 different strategies that you can do to increase that cash flow to ensure that your property keeps feeding you versus you feeding it. Alright, so our first strategy here today is to put a larger deposit down. If you're looking at a property and again you really like the location, you think there's a lot of future potential, maybe it's close to new transit coming in or what have you, but using a typical 20% down payment might not either cash flow or it might leave you with a skinny cash flow. A simple strategy to do would be to increase your deposit. By increasing your deposit, you're actually making your overall mortgage payments lower, which then of course makes your overall cash flow higher. Super simple trick that you can do when looking at a property. So in numbers term or percentage terms, you could, instead of doing a 20% deposit, do a 25% deposit. So as you're running your numbers on a cash flow analysis, just throw in a 25% deposit and see how much it affects your cash flow. So the second strategy that you could do to increase cash flow would be to do some light renovations on a property. Now if you own a property or you're looking at a property that is say either dated or it's had a tenant in there that was a little rougher on the property, before you go and rent it out, do some work to that property to help maximize the rent that you're going to get. As tenants are out there looking, they want the nicest property possible. So they're willing to pay more for a property that's in more prime condition than one that's really dated and rough. So when you're looking at that property, think about a budget that you could do to paint the walls, freshen up the cabinets, maybe replace the flooring, just so you can increase that rent just slightly. It'll pay dividends in the long run. So our third strategy is all who pays the utilities. Are you offering rent with utilities included or are you having the tenants pay? Now it's very important for your cash flow that you have the tenants pay. Because at the end of the day, utilities are something that fluctuate depend on uses. Whereas most of your other expenses, mortgage, taxes, insurance, they're pretty set throughout the year. So if you want to make sure you have a set cash flow every month, it's very important to put that utility charge on the tenant. If they're leaving lights on or letting water run, they're the ones paying for it, not you. You could have months where if you're paying for it and they're leaving the lights on, suddenly you could be in a negative cash flow, whereas last month you might have been a positive. So again, if you want to make sure you don't fluctuate in your cash flow, put the utilities in the tenant's name. So the last 2 strategies we're going to talk about are more advanced strategies that you can do as an investor to help maximize cash flow. One of them I've already talked about in a previous video, and that's furnished rentals. So strategy number 4 is putting furniture in your rental properties. You can see that video here if you want a more detailed description on furnished rentals, but essentially putting furniture in your rentals and renting them with that furniture, people will pay a higher premium on their rent to rent it with furniture. That means they don't have to worry about as much moving costs if they don't have furniture, or if they're coming in for short-term rentals, you can definitely earn a lot of cash flow doing more short-term, higher turnover rentals. That's one strategy. I'll also link that video below, so make sure you go check that one out if furnished rentals is something that interests you. Now our 5th and final strategy for today is lease options, or as it's more commonly called, rent to own. So essentially, rent to own is the process where you as the landlord offer your property to a tenant buyer, as we call them, who's going to give you a large option consideration up front, and they're going to be paying above average rents because you're going to help save more option consideration for them to eventually purchase that property at a predetermined price at a predetermined time. This is a great way that we find, especially in the Lower Mainland, that you can really maximize your rental income and your cash flow in the area. Now I'm going to do a more in-depth video on the rent-to-own process. Now consider adding rent-to-owns into the strategies that you're doing, especially in areas where the properties are more expensive and the cash flow might be a little thinner. It's a great way that you can increase your cash flow. We've seen cash flows in the Lower Mainland go anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a month for using the rent-to-own strategy. So keep that in mind. If you have any questions on the rent-to-own, drop those below and let me know if that's something that interests you, and we can definitely go dive deeper on another video on that. So there you have it. 5 quick, easy strategies that you guys can do today to start increasing your cash flow. First one, obviously, we said was put a bigger deposit down when you're buying the property. Instead of doing 20, put 25. The second one is to maybe do some light rentals to the property so you guys can help get a better rent by attracting a better quality tenant. Third one, put the utilities in the tenant's name. That way, when they fluctuate, the tenants are paying for it, not you. Fourth was doing a furnished rental and adding furniture to your rental property. And fifth is doing a rent to own to maximize your rent. These are 5 different ways that you can do today to start increasing your cash flow on your rental properties. I hope you guys found this video very informative. If you guys have any questions, throw them in the comments below. Don't forget, hit that like button, and if you haven't already done so, hit that subscribe button, and guys, we'll see you next week.